We're going to move to the, let's do the LPs, and then I have a very large stack of 45s to show off. And hopefully you're sitting there enjoying this and salivating at some of this stuff. I found this about a month ago at a monthly flea market in the city of Alessandria, which is in northern Italy. It's our provincial capital, and there's a large antiquarian flea market that covers a big part of the central part of town once a month on a Sunday. And we've been to a few of those now, and this past one was my best one for records. What was amazing is I like to go, I'll get into this more on the video that I do on shopping for records at Bargain in Italy. I definitely have to do one of those with some tips. But I went to one of the Moroccan cleanout guys who was on the corner, and the first thing you saw, because it has this pink cover, sitting on top of a pile of LPs, just sitting there staring me in the face, was this thing, which I read initially as Gilbert Artman's Lard Free. And I did not know what that was. I had never heard of this group or this release before. And man, this is one of my best serendipitous finds of my life. It's a French group. This came out in 1973, and it's not Gilbert Artman, it's Gilbert Armand. And these guys, if they were in French, we'd probably be calling this krautrock. This is some wild stuff. You've got the big knife, and it's lard free. Thanks to Jello Biafra, I now have records by Lard and a record titled Lard Free. I should be displaying those together. One of the Lard 12 inches with the Lard Free. That's funny stuff. But what does this sound like? It sounds like, I would say it's somewhere between, I should do an entire video that's just a review of this record. It's somewhere between some early Kraftwerk and some Tangerine Dream, Klaus Schulze type stuff. It's a little, the synthesizing is a little more on the unsettling, harsh side and the experimental side than some of Tangerine Dream's more pleasant experimental stuff. Definitely experimental, definitely electronic. There are some kind of rock, prog rock, krautrock, jazz rock moves in here, somewhat with the other instruments. But some of this stuff is pure weird synth, and some of it is prog rock, jazz rock synth. And apparently, and this is an original, it's not a repressing. I paid €5, which might be make it the most expensive record of anything that I'm going to show you. And it apparently sells between 80 to 100 euros, and this is in like VG++ condition, the vinyl. I'm really thrilled. You just keep your eye out for this stuff, and I think the fact that it's in English and that it's just obscure threw a lot of people off. When I see obscure, I'm drawn to it immediately. A lot of people are repulsed by the unknown, but not me. That's how I got here. So Lard Free, excellent find. We went up north to a small flea market in a little town that I think everybody there was kind of sad that more people didn't show up. And I think I paid €5 for this one again. Auf den Tod it's a German album of Vorkriegsphase. I would like to pronounce that correctly. Vorkriegsphase is the name of the band. This is a German 80s hardcore band. Auf den Tod. It's on Rockorama Records, which was a famous/infamous West German punk rock label. I have this vague recollection of reading in zines that maybe they weren't paying bands very well, or that they were people were saying that they were the sort of Mystic Records of Europe. And I don't know if that's fair or not. I don't want to slander anybody, but in any event, there is also a one or more re-releases of this record. This is an original. The guy who had this mostly had metal 80s hair metal and metal and bands like Crocus and that sort of thing, which were bigger in Europe, I think, than they were in the States. And he wanted more like full-on retail prices for those, but was willing to get rid of this for €5. And it turns out that this sells for this will sell for 80 to €100 by itself as an original. And I was pretty thrilled to find this too. So you keep your eyes out. You go to the little flea markets, and you never know. You never know. This is a thrift store find of mine from about 2 weeks ago. That was actually up in Valle d'Aosta, which is it's the smallest regione in Italy. It's semi-autonomous. People speak 2 languages there that aren't quite French, and even a couple small towns speak a couple languages that aren't quite Swiss German, because it's tucked up against the French Alps and the Swiss Alps. And we went up to look at the place and didn't find a flea market, did find a couple of thrift stores. And the coolest thing that I found in either of those was Simonetti Horror Project. This is an album from 1991. He does a couple, this guy, it seems to be a bit of a vanity project. He's got a band together, but I think it was more like friends of his working in the studio. And he's done covers of horror stuff and a couple of originals. And I mean, I like that. He did 3 different covers of Goblin from up here in northern Italy, working with Dario Argento, probably the best known horror rock collaboration in the world. I mean, I know we've got the Misfits and everything, but in terms of music that was written for movies, and I know we got the Dickies with the Killer Clowns, but in terms of sustained horror soundtrack work, I mean, Goblin is the kings of that, going back to the 70s. I do have a couple early Goblin albums that I actually I found in the States that were miracles to find. So I actually brought most of my Goblin with me to Italy. That's a little strange. But yeah, this guy did some Goblin covers and did a Goblin cover marked as hip hop, where he did a horror rap. The less said about that, perhaps the better. And a couple of other synthy horror themed tracks. This isn't worth a whole hell of a lot of money. I am going to probably sell it. I thought it was cool. You're gonna hook me with anything horror related like this, and it was a cool find for I think €3 in a thrift store, and you gotta roll the dice on that. And I'm glad I did. It was a cool listen. If that sounds like something you want to check out, I mean, who else was doing anything like that? This has a messed up cover. Actually, it's got a split cover. I'm gonna keep it in the. I put it in a plastic sleeve here. But Geordie is a band that you may well know if you're British. We basically don't really know them in the States. I mean, they even have a British name telling you where they're from, presumably. That's Newcastle, isn't it? British people, correct me in the comments. Geordie, hard rock, glam rock from the 70s. This is like a greatest hits of theirs. Masters of Rock Volume 8. The text on this is actually in German. This was released by EMI Germany. It made it down here. And I think because the cover was split and also because it was sitting in the thrift store for a while, something I'll talk to you about in that upcoming video about shopping for records in Italy, marked down to €2. And I cleaned it up. It was a little dusty. Cleaned it up, put it in a nicer sleeve, and it's awesome. And I'm gonna give it some more listens. I don't know Geordie that well. I knew of them, and to find this for €2 is just awesome. You're just not finding this in the States. So I was very happy with that. This is a cool thrift store find. I think I paid €1 for this. Miss Giovana, which was an Italian cosmetics line, presents it's even presenta. It's in English. Presents 12 teen hits, although the gatefold cover, everything in the gatefold is in Italian. This was a promo for, I guess, for teen girls. Maybe if you bought if you bought a certain number of cosmetics or saved the box tops or whatever, you could get one of these, and it's a really cool collection of music from around 1970, early 70s. You've got Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, cover of Rolling Stone, Albert Hammond's Never Rains in Southern California, All the Young Dudes by Mott the Hoople, Me and Mrs. Jones, Billy Paul, Santana's cover of Oye Como Va, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. I'm from Philadelphia. If you don't know me by now, Open Up Wide by Chase, Horn Rock Chase is, aren't they? Backstabbers by the OJs. Obviously, however this was licensed, it was licensed to CBS Records Italy. Obviously, they had some kind of deal going with Philadelphia International Records. Hanging Around by the Edgar Winter Group, Family Affair, Sly, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and Redbone, Witch Queen of New Orleans. That's a pretty good selection of like early 70s, rock and soul. If you're an Italian young woman, this is going to make your day to get one of these. So that was kind of a cool find. I enjoy those product tie-in records and everything. Also for €2, I got this. I cannot fully appreciate this record. This is a double album of folk troubadours, folk singers from Italy, from around 1970, from a folk festival. It's a double album. The records themselves are like VG++ near mint, and apparently the festival took place in Torino, and I cannot fully appreciate this. There's a lot of songs that are going to be in various dialects or to be fair, languages which are not standard Italian. And it's very cool. I snapped it up to flip it, and it turns out that it sells for about €100, and I paid $2. In this condition, it would be about €100 record. I don't know how long it's going to take to sell, but thrilled to find it. I always look out for anything like this. I'm going to look it up. These days I have to look up so much because virtually everything is rare to me, to my eyes, as an American who's been living in Europe fairly recently. This I knew I wanted to grab. I paid $150 for the. Actually, I bought 2 copies of this. This was at the same thrift store the same day, up directly north of us, up near the Swiss border. This is a Swiss 80s they're described as a new wave band, quirky, offbeat rock new wave band, Pocaferra. That has an English title, The Long Goodbye. The song titles are in English. I believe the songs are in English. I'm not wild about it, but offbeat, weird, didn't know about it. Have both for sale. I think they're both for sale for more than €20 because the records are so clean. Keep your eyes out, folks. I mean, that's been my rule forever, and it was my rule in the States is if you don't know what it is, you should probably buy it. This was a very cool find. This is a soul sampler that was licensed to licensed to Musicorp and released in Italy, and it's got what little information is on it is mostly in Italian. A quartet of soul. You've got the Platters, Inez and Charlie Fox, Tommy Hunt, Barbara and Brenda. If you like 60s soul stuff, this is a great sampler, and I paid $1 or €2 for this, and that's pretty awesome. A lot of times I'm finding soul here that didn't do a whole lot in the U.S. There's some of the artists weren't as big in the U.S. and they got singles out here. They had hits here. So I'm learning about some American soul artists who I sold a lot of Soul 45s in the U.S. I sold a ton of Soul 45s, valuable ones, to the Northern Soul kind of scene. I sold a lot to Southern California, to the lowrider folks who have adopted danceable soul as like their music, and I was selling to so many Latinos in Southern California who were keeping that alive, spinning the original 45s. It's a mirror image of the Northern Soul thing that you've got going in Britain, and I appreciate a lot of that music. not as much as the people who are so into it. But I mean, I was mainly selling those records to Southern California and maybe some of the Southwest, always to Latino names. A lot of repeat customers, which I appreciate. British folks, especially in the north of England, Northern Soul, called that for a reason, and Japan, and also Americans. Americans would buy our own music too, and enjoy it. But those were my three biggest markets. So I'm kind of relearning some of the soul stuff here, especially in the early '70s. Some of the less danceable stuff that. More ballady stuff that I just don't know, because they're people who had a career in Europe. They're Black Americans who had a career in Europe, and I don't know them. I see the single for the first time, and I'm like, oh, let me look this person up. Oh, they're from Detroit. Look at that. And I had to move to Europe to find out about them. This one beat up. I paid a couple of euros because it was beat up. It's got a stamp from a record store in Torrin. Clive Langer and the Boxes Splash. It had the look of like 80s, maybe new wave or something. It turns out to be very much sort of new wave pub rock. Every song is about being out with the lads and trouble with his bird and all that. I don't think he said bird, because he's not a 1950s Cockney, but he's a British guy. And it's a very British album. And I heard this, I was listening to it, I was not thrilled with it. I am going to flip it and make a couple of euros. I heard this and I was thinking, man, a lot of these songs sound like Elvis Costello. And then I started reading the liner notes, and wouldn't you know it, it's produced by Elvis Costello. And aside from the big hits like Radio, and especially Pump It Up. Outside of that, I'm just not a big Elvis Costello fan. Nothing against him. I mean, and then he goes to lounge singer or whatever, jazz man, toward the later part of the career, and I'm just not into it. I have one friend who's a big Elvis Costello fan. She just, the whole career. But so, nothing against Elvis Costello, but not exactly my cup of tea, no pun intended. Clive Langer and the Boxes, I think, would have been a fun band to see at the pub. I think that was their circuit, the pub circuit, although I wouldn't call it pub rock necessarily. I found this for like €1 at I don't even remember if it was a thrift store or a flea market. Grand Prix Epicoli in blue jeans, which is Little Ones in blue jeans. And it's Italian cartoon themes from the late 60s into the 70s. And I think they had the same deal that those of us who are Gen Xers did in the US, where you got the rerun, you got the baby boomer reruns when you were watching TV in the 70s into the 80s. So a lot of these they had a lot of Japanese cartoons that we didn't have. They had the Japanese cartoons that we had. They had Speed Racer, and they had what was it, Star Blazers. They had those, but then they had additional Japanese anime aimed at kids that I don't remember ever seeing on American TV. So they had more of those shows, and then they had their own European shows, and these are the theme songs from them. I've got this for sale. I was hoping that a couple of the anime songs might have been a little cooler than they were. A lot of these had kids' voices on them, which to me, I don't enjoy hearing children sing. I don't enjoy watching children eat. It's just a thing for me. Don't hold it against me. Perhaps I've gotten more in your good graces as a result of revealing that. I said 60s Italian rock is all about the covers, which it largely is. There were some good originals, but we're mostly talking about covers. And then Italy, and I think some other countries, France and some other places, really start to shine with the rock, as opposed to yay and some pop sounds that were very cool. With Prague. Prague gets big, and it's never really gone away. in Italy. And this is a 1988, I believe, um, long song, four song, we could call it a 12-inch EP or an LP of a band called Arcancio, which does not sound particularly Italian, and Four Daisies is the title in English of the album. It is a prog album. I have it for sale to flip. I thought I'd give it a shot. I think I paid €2 for this one at a thrift store. It turned out to be a good investment to flip. It'll probably sell here within Italy, but not 100% my cup of tea. Late 80s. Unfortunately, it suffers for my taste. It suffers from 80s big rock production that they probably didn't even pay much money for. This was a cool find at a thrift store. Jack Lee, Canadian. It's on Lolita Records, which is make of that what you will. Lolita Records, and the big song on here, the one they're pushing, side one, track one, is Sex. That's the title of the track. It's Sex. And Jack Lee, apparently, I'm not remembering what it was, but Jack Lee wrote a song that we all know. Jack Lee wrote some kind of power pop or new wave tune that we all know, and it's not coming to me. If anybody thinks of it, leave it in the comments. But it's not a bad album. I'm gonna flip this one. I paid €2 or €3. It's gonna sell for 20 or so in Europe, where I think he was better known than certainly in the States. Maybe CanCon got him radio airplay in Canada, so maybe some of you Canadians who were watching are like, oh yeah, Jack Lee, but I don't know him as an American. It's not a bad album. It's not a great album. I'm okay with getting rid of it. Sort of power pop rock, guitar rock, not horrible, but a good find for a thrift store in northern Italy for €2. This was kind of cool. The Beat Breakers featuring Jean Corrier, Jean Corrier, I assume. These guys are French, I think. This was released in Italy on Concert Hall Records. And it is, these guys are wearing they're wearing their Paisley. It's more in the, most of this music it's mostly covers, and it's more in the vein of cheesy, exotica, maybe not quite space age, but apparently people buy it. It goes for like €10 or so, and I paid, I think, €2. And you got some covers of Maxwell's Silver Hammer, not the most common Beatles song to cover. Venus, Suspicious Mind, Sugar Sugar. This tells you this was released probably in 69 or 70, probably 1970. By the time the hits of 1969 would have gotten around for these guys to cover it, probably 1970. So decent find for a flip. I got some cool jazz. Not cool jazz. I got some jazz that is cool. A couple of records that I didn't grab off the shelf that I have for sale. This one I'm probably going to keep because I thought it was so cool. I'm trying to appreciate jazz more. I've sold enough jazz through the years. I've sold some very cool things that maybe I should have held on to, except for the fact that I was making a living selling it. But yeah, this Brazilian release, it's a re-release for the Italian market from World Pacific, which typically you see stuff on World Pacific, and usually it's desirable. But it's Bud Shank and Laurindo Almeida, who I don't know so well, but I'm learning, and there's some very cool Brazilian-inflected instrumental jazz on here, which is cool, and I think I'm going to hang on to this one. €2. This was a cool find. This I didn't know exactly what this was. I paid more for this than I normally would. I think I paid €5 or so. It was marked down a little bit from €8. It's on a label called Rockland, which has about the coolest label that you're ever going to see. It is it needs to be cleaned a little bit too, it looks like, but this is it's got this Western Western motif with the Native American on there. Very cool label. And this is French. And the reason that I picked it up, the reason that I took a chance on it, aside from the wild cover art, was a name I saw on the back cover. A lot of you may know Jean-Paul Messera, who did some wild 60s into early 70s French psych rock, crazy stuff with sound effects and just out there sounds. And I saw that this was produced by J.P. Messera and in Paris, and that and that he was an engineer on it and probably wrote a lot of this stuff. And this is kind of aggressive synthy rock, dancey rock, but like 1981, there's a lot going on this. It's pretty cool. It's cool enough on the, I'm a guitar first guy, but if there's something weird and aggressive happening with synth, I can get into that too. And the JP Messera put it over the top for me. So to me, this is a keeper, especially for €5. Visitors, 1981. Check that out if that sounds like something that you would enjoy. I found for €2, I found this Ian Hunter LP, which I picked up primarily because everybody on it, it's almost a Lost Clash album. I'm going to do a video where I'm going to look at the Ellen Foley album and this Ian Hunter album, kind of put them head to head and see who is the better Clash album not labeled as the Clash. Because you've got the whole band and most of the band and Ellen Foley appear on here, and Tim and Doug, who is the busker, friend of Joe Strummer, who appears on Sandinista, playing the violin, hanging to the fiddle. So yeah, we'll do the Ian Hunter review along with the Ellen Foley review in an upcoming video. €2, good find. La Resistenza, Cori e Canti dei Partigiani Italiani. These are songs of the Italian partisans. Bella Ciao probably being the most famous. There's a grim photo of one of them being hanged by the neck until dead on the cover. That's pleasant. But I picked this up for €1 or €2, and it's a clean copy of Italian partisan songs. So it's folk stuff. It's the type of thing that people in my town literally break out singing at town events. So I should get to know it, and cool stuff for the couple of euros. Funny story with this one, Ravi Shankar Chapakwa. This was a movie soundtrack. This is a movie from, I believe, 1966, pretty early on to be adapting sitar music to a soundtrack, 66. And I don't know much about the movie. I think I had heard of it. I had certainly never seen it before, but this album seems pretty common in Italy. This was released for the Italian market on CBS Italia, and Colonna Sonora Originale del Film, original soundtrack, OST is what that means. And I've seen this a few times, but what's funny is the first time that I saw Chapakwa, I saw it without the cover. There was a clean copy of the album in a paper sleeve, no cover at all. And I asked the thrift store, I was buying a couple of other records, what they wanted for it. It didn't have a cover. I was hoping they'd say €1 or 50 cents, and they gave it to me. They just let me take it home. I listened to it, and it was cool stuff because there's raga stuff on here. There's more, there's mostly more traditional Ravi Shankar music, which is cool. I like a drone. I like droney, twangy folk instrumentals from the world. And there's also some weirder music on there that was written for the soundtrack that's sort of a blend of Western and Eastern, and having themselves a little bit of a George Harrison. So later, I ended up being in a different thrift store where I was buying some records, and there was this record with a clean cover, but the record itself, and I think I have the Foley one here. The record itself had some weird pressing issue or something where the label was off center, ruining a couple inner tracks on one side. And I asked how much they wanted for this record because I was interested in the cover. And that thrift store, a different one, said, well, the record's messed up. You could just have that. So between thrift store number 1 giving me the record and thrift store number 2 giving me the cover, I now have a free copy of Ravi Shankar's Chappaqua. And those were about 2 or 3 months apart from each other. The level of serendipity is off the charts. Very cool. This find was more, I don't dislike Kate Bush, don't come at me, but this find was more for my wife than for me. It is Kate Bush's album Never Forever. My wife is the huge Kate Bush fan in the family. I quite like a lot of her stuff. I mean, my favorite song of hers is what, Cloud Busting, I think is my favorite. And of course, after Stranger Things, they're just Running Up That Hill is getting played to death at this point. So if you did enjoy the song, maybe you don't anymore. But I'm getting more into some Kate Bush stuff. And what was cool about this was this was at a flea market. They wanted initially 10 euros for it, but it's on the Balkan Tone label. It is on the Bulgarian label. It does not appear to be a bootleg. It just seems to have been licensed to the cheap Bulgarian label of the 1980s, the state label. And it has a super flimsy paper cover. And I pointed these things out. Of course, when you're at a flea market and you want to talk down the price of something, you tell somebody, of course, how crappy their product is. They're like, it's the Bulgarian pressing. Would you take 5? And the lady was very nice. She took 5 for it. So we got a nice Kate Bush album. Sounds pretty much as good as probably a British or American pressing for €5. Okay, so we're kind of through a lot of material here, but I haven't even touched the 45s yet. I'm going to hit the 45s. I have a big stack of them here. This is cool stuff. You will want to stick around for it.